to do a public hearing on state compensatory education. State compensatory education.
There you go. Okay, coming to the table is Dr. Lance Gropel, Deputy Superintendent of Administration. K-8 is his responsibilities. Mr. Jones, our Chief of Staff, Deputy Superintendent, actually had a training today in Kilgore, or he would maybe be co-presenter, or at least be there for some
Moral support, probably what we're
as a
gonna call it.
resource. We also have Tasha Bjork, who understands the financial component of this. But this is a report that you have to do with for state compensatory education. If you receive those SCE funds, and we do, kind of outlining how we plan to utilize those funds, but certainly a program evaluation in regard to the SCE. Dr. Gropel?
Yes. And this is just an overview of how we utilize fund, a couple data points of their effectiveness this past year, and then we'll look at how we intend to use the upcoming year. Ms. Bjork will get into some of the financials in a later agenda item, but this is the public hearing part of this requirement. So just an overview of state comp ed. Just the goal of state comp ed is to reduce the disparity in graduation rates amongst our students. That does not mean, while we're focused on graduation rates, that state comp ed funds can only be used at the high school level. They can be used pre-K through 8, and we utilize that throughout the district as we look at programming, both direct and indirect costs. So you can see there listed on the screen, you have examples of direct, and 55% of our state comp ed funds have to be used on direct costs. So that's anything that is directly impacting instruction for at-risk students, and at-risk is defined as at risk of not graduating from high school. You can see some of the items that we can utilize and how we can utilize that. Then you can, no more than 45% can be used in indirect costs. So that's something that's not going to directly impact, but could potentially support what we offer in the classroom. So you're going to see things like AVID is an example of what we use for state comp ed, pre-K, offering pre-K to our students, and then we use we use much more than 55% on the direct side of things. We don't come close to the 45% threshold on the indirect costs. And you can see the total that we had this past year is a little over 11 or almost to $12 million in state comp ed funds. So looking at some longitudinal data, again, state comp ed is focused on graduation rates and specifically of our at-risk students. So you can see the class of 21 and the class of 22. This is obviously a little bit lagging data as we just had our summer school graduation this past week for all of our students. So you can see in the class of 21, our all students versus in the class of 22, we see an increase there. Also with our EB and EL population, almost 100% there in the EB, EL population, as well as a pretty significant increase in our homeless population. The middle column there is the continuously enrolled. So a student that may not finish in that 4-year window, but that comes back for that 5th year, that's what you're going to see in that column. And then the dropout is obviously what you would traditionally see in a dropout that does not come back, doesn't meet the requirements in that 4-year period, and is not a student that enrolled with us for that 5th year. So that's why this is a little bit of a lagging data, because that a continuous enrollment number is included in the part of the program evaluation. So next year, this time, we'll be looking at the class of 22 versus the class of 23.
Just to be a legend here, EB is emerging bilingual and emerging English language learners. So your old ELL.
Yeah, they've changed, the language around, the acronym associated with English as a second language has now morphed to emergent bilingual. So that includes all of our students that are learning a second language. So.
What's the green? Is that for Dr. Jamie Curitan's here today, SDG back there. What's the green for?
The green shows growth from 21 to
Okay,
22.
there you go.
Yeah, that's the green.
And
highlights.
those also outpace the region and outpace the state. Make sure we put that out there for everybody.
Sir. It does outpace the region and outpace the state. So you'll see those numbers there. And then as we look towards the 23-24, obviously we'll have a better idea. We'll be out of the zone of uncertainty in the near future around STAR testing data. We should have that released in the coming weeks for us, and then we'll get a better idea on our accountability ratings. That will be incorporated into this for next year as a part of the data review, but we don't have that data at this point. Looking at our campuses, our LIFT plans, the LIFT initiatives that align with the district improvement plan, as well as the specific campus improvement plans. Again, extending on the Leader in Me implementation district-wide, as well as AVID is a big member of this. And then our reading initiative, early literacy initiative, as we look at summer school programming for next school year. We utilized some state comp ed funds this year to offer a early literacy program at Bonner that was supporting Griffin, Bonner, Clarkston, and Douglas. And it was focused on early literacy, focusing on preventing some of that summer slide data that we often see that is a pretty significant deterrent from being successful, and being able to read on grade level by third grade is one of the greatest predictors of success throughout their school time. So that's all the information I have. I'll take any questions.
This may be a really stupid question, and I'm sure we've gone over this before numerous times, but how are these students identified being at risk?
Oh gosh, there's a long list of at-risk factors that they have to qualify for. Academic performance is a big one.
Right.
Obviously, homeless population is another. Dr. Cureton, I don't know if you have that list.
Children of military personnel are actually identified as at risk.
Because they move around so much.
Yeah.
So a high level of transient population that can meet the identify. There are how many, Dr. Cureton?
There's a lot. Things change by grade level, plus the multiple factors. Like pre-K, are they on track to leave pre-K through second grade? So we look at scores, and then there's other.
So when they're identified as at risk, maybe in their younger elementary ages, are they constantly at risk the whole time? It never drops off? Like they're, okay.
Certain factors can drop off, certain factors cannot.
Okay.
So if they're ever identified homeless, they're always at-risk factor is always considered to be there.
And next grade ready is what you're describing there, Dr. Cureton. So like if you're a kindergartner and you know like you're ready for first grade, you could be pegged at risk, identified as at risk.
And a couple of things. We used to get the comparison of the state and regional, and recently we hadn't been able to get that data. I don't know if it's lagging behind your reporting, but we haven't received that in a while.
That comes out every year in about September, October with it's not taper anymore. What is it? TPRS. So you'll get that data come September and October when the state has provided that data to us. So we wouldn't have the state, I guess we would. Will we have the state data in regard to this, what we just presented today on the graduation rates?
We won't have that till next year.
Yeah. Yeah, but whenever they get their TPRS report,
This year,
yeah,
they'll have all of that.
there you go. That comes in October or September.
Okay, because I know
Correct.
we hadn't seen it in a while. I don't know if we just dropped it from the reporting, but I mentioned it once before because I like to compare how we're doing.
Every
in the
year,
state and-
we get the TPRS report in September or October
That's a part of it there.
as part of whenever we have to present that. We actually have to have a public hearing in that time, so. Yeah, because it didn't come out in time until December.
Right.
I don't believe
Yeah.
we've lumped that to traditionally in that presentation when we have all of the data.
Right.
So,
together.
yeah, it's been 9 months or a year since you've got that in regard to graduation rates. Sometimes we're able to, like your STAR report, when we report the STAR scores we're supposed to get those in a couple of weeks, or a week, I guess. When we present those in September, you'll be able to have comparable data in regard to STAR testing and things like that, so.
Okay, in regards to that risk, there was a drop in 2022 compared to 2021. Is there a rationale for that?
No rationale, but you look at, there was a drop from the graduated, but if you look at the continuous enrolled improvement percentage, it does go up significantly. So that's the accounting for those students. Obviously, the dropout went down just a fraction, but we do have, those kids continuously enrolled with us. I don't have the data in front of me on the class of that group that continuously enrolled, their success and completion this school year, but we could, I believe, find that data for us.
Okay, I had another question in regards to the use of the funds. You were saying that 55% can be direct cost, and I see that smaller class size is under direct cost. Or how much are we using to promote smaller class size? Do you know? That's a very specific question, so it may take some
It's
inquiry.
probably where you're paying, are you paying for your aides out of it, Tasha, whenever you have over 22-to-1?
Yes, we pay for the aides and several other aides.
So those instructional supports we're adding at the elementary level.
Pre-K aides and the class size.
Okay. Okay.
There's a listing of it on page 25 and 26.
Okay.
Any more discussion, questions? Thank you so much. You won't be leaving. You're here to stay with the next section. Oh, public participation. Did anybody want to have anything to say about the compensatory education? Do we have any speakers? No? Okay. So, in continuous improvement student outcomes. Dr. Curidan, you want to join them?
So every year we review our, we use Star Renaissance in the past as our universal screener. Dr. Kiertsen's going to dive into the data. Star Renaissance provides us a beginning, middle, and end of year data review. We are moving away from Star Renaissance moving forward. We are partnering with a program called iReady through Curriculum Associates moving forward. I feel like they provide us a more robust data point as well as more instructional resources for our teaching staff to better provide intervention based off of the data points that you'll see here. Another piece of Renaissance is, while we're going with iReady, less about Renaissance and more about iReady, is the direct alignment to the TEKS, the direct alignment to the STAR testing that our kids are going to see, and really providing a more realistic experience for our kids for what they will see, and we know that it's aligned with the TEKS and the learning expectations for them.
Well, good morning, Dr. Crawford, Board of Trustees. We'll just run through our Renaissance end of the year update. Like Dr. Gropel said, it's the last time that we'll be talking about Renaissance. Just as a reminder, we do assess all of our students in kindergarten through 8th grade in math and reading. We assess them at the beginning, middle, and end of the year. And it's always on a computer. Usually they'll do it during a class, so they're with all their peers. And then we'll use it for instruction. We use it to track progress, meet goals, et cetera. So we'll discuss some of that data here in just a second. We'll talk about the 3 performance levels, which are approaches, which is traditionally represented in purple. It's approaches, college career readiness, but it's passing projected to pass the state standard state test. Same thing with the blue and the green, which is meets and masters. So all of those are passing levels that we're talking about. They're just different levels of passing. So masters would be your highest performance. Approaches is meeting that minimum passing standard, and then meets is between those two. So we look at where our students started in the fall compared to the spring, and we're looking at cohort data. So only students that were here at the beginning and end are included. On the left, you'll see the beginning of the year data, what was projected for approaches, meets, and masters for kindergarten through 8th grade, and then you'll see where we finished. And so for reading, we improved everywhere in kindergarten through 5th grade. We improved at all proficiency levels in all grades. And then we had some mixed data for our middle schools. The masters was there, the same or higher with the exception of 8th grade, but our passing level was a little bit lower than it was at the beginning of the year. Projected to pass, I should say, not actually passing. If we zoom in and look at our kindergarten 1st and 2nd grade, which is aligned to our first district goal, so these are the first 3 progress measures. You'll see the end of the year targets, that each grade level has a set of end of the year targets, and then where we finished the year is below that for each grade level. And in green, we highlighted where we hit the target versus where we missed it. So in some areas, we missed it. We were pretty close overall. I would say second grade, we see a little bit more of a dip than we did in the other grade level. But certainly something we're monitoring and trying to see where we're improving and where we're not improving.
Just to call your attention, that kindergarten and first grade group are the ones that have had a full day pre-K program throughout. So I think that is a good indicator of why we see a greater level of success there, and maybe not the same level of success at the second grade level.
If we transition to math, here's what we see for math. So for the most part, we improved pretty much across the board at all levels, approaches to meets and masters. Again, from beginning of the year to the end of the year. Especially our masters early on with our young students. And then if we look at goal 2, which was our numeracy goal, you'll see a bump right there in first grade. And then we missed the goal a little bit in kindergarten, but second grade, again, you see that's where the biggest dip is. So hopefully we'll start to see that gap close as these students move into this year as second graders, and then we pick up our new kindergartners. That's all I got. If you have any questions.
Any questions, discussion?
Go back to the math results. So last year, we were puzzled because we'd always been knocking the top off of the math and we'd had some dips. So this shows some improvement, that we actually improved some mathematics performance. Equating that to the STAR results coming out, we'll find out here in about a week or so to see if that was something that made a difference or not.
Yes, sir.
Just a question on this to help me understand the data. So on the end of the year, say kindergarten, that means 61% of all kindergartners are at approaches?
Correct. What we would translate to approaches. So if we take the third grade standard and we scale that down to second, first, and kinder, they're projected to meet that standard. Correct.
Okay.
So they're at the standard at the end of the year, but that standard translates to third grade success.
Okay, so could they be, because I'm looking at, I'm not, Abilene Wiley math, if that's 61% and 49% and 23%, I'm just trying to understand how those percentages work within that, because that's more than 100, right?
Yes, sir. Great question. So masters, so the way that these percentages work is they're nested. So a student that got masters, which is the highest level of performance, that student will also be included in the meets and the approaches numbers. They're nested. So approaches should be your most inclusive, and then the higher performance, they'll get less and less inclusive.
Gotcha, okay.
So they absolutely could add up over 100. Yeah, good point.
Could we go back to the second grade reading? So I notice every time we have a conversation about the reading for exams or tests or different computer programs, our second graders are always lagging behind. Are we doing anything to try to fix that or change that? It's always the second graders that are really behind, which to me will translate third grade being behind fourth grade and so forth. So what are we doing differently, or how are we trying to help them be achievers?
So I can speak a little bit to this. I know this year especially, what we're really trying to hammer home with our second grade teachers and really our kindergarten through second grade on the phonics side of things is to have, and I'm going to give you kind of the generic terms, but have high growth. Track every single student, regardless of where they came to us, because what we've looked at and noticed as we've had this is our students with a lot of skill gaps, we have consecutive years of high growth is what we have to have for those students. If we have a single year of high growth, like when you start talking second grade and students that are behind, it makes it extremely difficult for those kids to even hit the benchmark. And so we're really trying to make sure our teachers know where students start at the beginning of the year and where they get to the end of the year, and they have a progress monitoring system to track that progress. I know second grade stuff because it does transition from kind of the foundational skills for reading to some of the STAR level content, but it's not an excuse. We'll certainly continue to work to improve that.
Yeah, and to extend upon what Dr. Kirchen said, I mentioned it during the state comp ed presentation. Our focus K2 now, or moving forward, is that on 3 by 3. We want to be reading on third grade level by third grade. And we kind of ran a pilot this summer of an early literacy focused summer school program at Bonner. We believe we're going to get some good data points out of that. But what we found as we looked through the data, talking about the high growth students, that came in low in kindergarten, that demonstrated high growth in kindergarten, had the greatest level of summer slide. And those are the students that we're really targeting in this early literacy camp in the summer, is to not have that big regression. When you see that big regression, you see the same thing as they go from into first grade to into second grade, is they're not able to make the same rate of growth to ultimately be at the grade level where the level they need to be at second grade. So that we're being very intentional in who we're targeting in that lane, as well as looking at some potential after-school programming to help support early literacy, to build that foundation to where when they get to second grade, they're where we need to be. I think you see in this slide specifically, you see we're hitting targets in kindergarten, we're hitting fewer targets in first grade, and then we're not on target in second grade. And I think that's a prime example of, you see that high rate of growth, and then we see that slide of students from kinder to first, which is where we're really going to target on our early literacy side of things, is making sure that those students that come in with the lower performance level at the beginning of year, that make the high growth throughout the year, that we're ensuring that they maintain that level of growth to help them perpetuate into a higher success rate, which should translate to better first grade and second grade results.
I know while we were focusing on the science of reading, what's our focus now?
Same.
Yeah.
I mean, the reading academies that every teacher grades what through what has to have.
Pre-K through 3.
Pre-K through 3, and that is a state-required, mandated curricula.
Right.
And so it really behooves the teacher and the principals and our curriculum instruction department to provide the support to continue to grow the teachers. I don't think there's anything magical that can be sprinkled on any of them other than just quality instruction and making sure that those teachers are monitored, and that whenever there are some issues that are going on inside of a classroom, they're not getting the results that they try the strategies that they've been trained upon within our reading academies. You know, we used to do the Voyager Soapers West stuff when we first started doing that, and then the state came in and said we couldn't do that anymore. So this is supposed to work.
It's supposed to work. There's been a change in requirement from the state as far as it pertains to reading academies. All of our teachers who have been with us have been trained. The only teachers that are now going through reading academies are new to us and don't come with that certification. They have made a change where in the past that program has been allowed to be a hybrid, an online program, to where now it's all required to be face-to-face. So it's going to require our teachers to be out of the classroom more, which is not the most ideal situation, but there's a change in that requirement.
Yeah,
We're no longer allowed to do that.
I think Dr. Norman presented that change last fall, I believe.
I want to say it was early spring, but she has sat in this chair and presented that change.
Correct, about what those changes
Right.
are and how they're redoing those.
And
it's requiring to use the service center. Is that correct?
Go through the service center. We have an internal person that facilitates that for us, who's been trained to be that facilitator that leads that cohort of teachers.
And how many instructional specialists up here do we have? And I don't know all the titles off the top of my head.
In
but as far as
RLA specifically, I think if you're looking K through 5, don't get me lying, but we have 2 that are focused on our focus campuses, and then 4 others that are supporting our other campuses, RLA K5.
And then what about your little tactical group that y'all have put together this
The
year?
focus campus coaching, we're revamping some of our campus support. We have a tactical team, to use Dr. Crawford's words, that are going to focus on a group of 5 to 6 campuses and solely spend time instructional coaching those teachers on those campuses. You'll have 2 RLA focused. One will be K2, the other will be 3-5, and then you'll have 2 math focused. One will be K2 and one will be 3-5.
Well,
And that's a new
pedagogical improvements.
Yeah,
we need.
that team does not have, traditionally, our instructional coaches have coaching responsibilities and curriculum requirements. That tactical team does not have in curriculum requirements. So they're solely focused on improving Tier 1 instruction at those focus campuses. And we pick those campuses based off of performances and need.
Looking at the Renaissance math, I see there's improvement across the board, which is great. But could you explain what the approaches really means in regards to that? Saying, for instance, the first graders, 66% of the first graders approaches. What does that mean?
I'll take a stab at it, or do you want to take a stab at it? Let's give Dr. Pierce.
So if you take the third grade standards, say in Renaissance, they've conducted linking studies to see how students performed on STAR in third grade and what their Renaissance score was, and they've linked them together. So they know based off X number of students, a kid has to have the 50th percentile in Renaissance to likely pass, likely hit the approaches standard. So what we're able to do is to go back into second, first, and kindergarten and say, how many of our kids are hitting that 50th percentile every year, right? So at the beginning of the year, it could be the 40th percentile, but by the end of the year, they got to be in the 60th, meaning they're outperforming 60% of historically where kids finish in first grade to be projected at approaches. So we know what the benchmarks are based off the third grade actual STAR test standard.
One thing I would add to that is the Renaissance assessment is based off of Common Core standards and not solely based off of Texas educational standards.
So at the end of the year, 66% of our first graders are approaching first grade level or approaching second grade level.
In other words, if you think about it from that, don't think of it as approaching first grade level
Right.
as in they're not ready for first grade.
Right.
If they were given a first grade STAR-like test, the program projects 66% would pass that test.
Right.
And then 32% would get meets, 12% would get masters.
Approaches is passing. That has been
Yep.
conveyed, even though there are demagogorous organizations out there that say that it's like Texas 2036, say that approaches is not, but the state says that approaches is passing. And don't think that 66% equates a D. That's one thing you got to kind of code switch going through. I still don't understand it. But a 66% may possibly get you a B rating within that.
Right.
There's a conversion there that of the million data points that get thrown into this stuff to figure this stuff out. So we're happy. It's hard to say this, but you're happy whenever you get upwards of 60%, or getting close to a 60% number on that to say that that's where it's probably going to score for us a B or possibly a higher B. So
Yeah, and that's why it's good to compare it to state and regional, so you can compare that, and because it's hard to understand exactly what it's meaning, but if we are exceeding state and regional, at least we know we're doing okay. We're going in a positive direction, and we're going in a positive direction anyway, because we improved from the beginning to the end.
yeah, and the
That's
thing
what we
about
want.
these interim assessments that we give, not everybody uses Renaissance, not everybody uses iReady, not everybody uses NWEA MAP. So it's really a local tool that we use in order to do this. So anything that we do is just more of a conversion estimation. The real stuff comes out when the STAR comes, to where we can actually do the comparisons, I guess. And then sometimes we've provided the board some comparison on Renaissance with a select group of
That's what I was gonna
like-minded
say.
districts
Right.
as well.
Right.
So I don't think we have that available for us on this one yet.
We didn't get it for the end of the year yet. So if we get that, we'll go ahead and share that with y'all. We talked, when we were meeting with iReady, we did talk with iReady about the same type of comparison. Like, we want to be able to see other districts that are similar and how they're
Right.
performing.
And we wanted to be more responsive. It's been taking a while for Renaissance to get us their stuff. So we're hoping iReady's going to be able to provide a little bit more responsiveness on comparisons.
A local rep with iReady.
That's right.
Tyler ISD parent, that's a rep for iReady.
Mr. Newsom, I did find a comparison on graduation rates. The most recent, we were at 97. The state was at 90. African American, 96.3. State was at 86.3.
Okay.
Hispanic, 96.6. 88.1 for the state, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Yeah, that type
Yeah.
data is good to
Absolutely.
have a reference into how we're doing with the rest of the
right.
state, or region, or whatever. That always helps.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next, we have an athletics update. The priest.
part of the board monitoring calendar, we have Greg Priest, Director of Athletics, that'll provide his presentation with brevity.
That's right.
As we.
Oh, I'm ready.
As we go forward. Coach
Well,
Priest.
Good morning, Dr. Crawford and Board of Trustees. Thanks for letting me come and present the athletics, or specifically more on the spring. And so you see, I kind of listed the district championships over at Legacy, having 4 and adding in tennis from the fall. That gives us 5. So definitely a lot more positive things that went on in the spring. A lot of things to be proud of. But going into that and then getting over into, we had a lot of great representation at the state level in the playoffs. As you can see, highlighted by Mia Zuniga, winning the state championship in powerlifting. Just had several good representation at the state, being state qualifiers. Also highlighted by tennis, does a great job. Soccer, doing a really good job of, I guess they were at area this year. So a lot of good representation, as you can kind of see right there. Also, Cooper Moore being able to get to regionals in the long jump and triple jump. So a lot of good representation. So proud of the way we competed in the spring at Tyler Legacy. As far as at Tyler High, highlighted by the basketball teams, both winning by-district championships. That's the first time we made it there in a few years, and so we're really excited about that and the direction that we have. Pretty young teams. And then, last year we had the first regional qualifier for the girls in swim, and then this year we also had a boy. So Daniel, that's his name. So he competed in 2 events and being able to make that, so that's not a typo there. But having that, and then as far as in track, all the boys relay teams advanced to the regional tournament and came very close to qualifying for state. So a lot of positive things here in the spring, and so that's our list right there. As far as some highlights, you can kind of see the some individuals up there that really highlighted. Zion Smith making it to state, Sarah Eckert making All-State, really had a good year. Softball had a really good season, had over 20 wins again this year. And then they only had 1 pitcher, made it to the postseason, got in there. Sarah pitched on she had a knee injury and was still pitching on one leg, so pretty much the entire year. So, and then just, as far as soccer, Coach Germany has done a phenomenal job over there. Tried to retire on us, and so fortunate for us, he decided to kind of pull out of that and come back. So that was good. One of the highlights over at Tyler High, I think we're really moving in the right direction here. Seth Gibson has gone over, him and his staff. Ms. Harrison even helping solidify a grant over there, but they won 3 district games. That's the first time they've done that since 2004. Had several all-district players. We fielded 3 teams. Had over 65 kids in the program, and then we have not. One of the goals that we have had in trying to get everybody was trying to get summer, youth baseball over on the north side of town, and so we have got that. That has started over there. And had over 65 kids, so continuing to grow that. But the program is really going in the right direction. They're working hard. They're doing, it's turning into a program where you got some kids that are playing baseball year-round now and not just throwing the glove down and as soon as the season's over and then picking it back up in January. So appreciate how hard those guys are working. And as I said, got a good staff and a lot of kids that are committed to playing baseball year-round. Just some of your upcoming events. It's here. It's the year flew by, the summer flew by. Had a lot of kids participating in summer workouts. But, as you can see, tennis has already started. They competed, they're actually both on the road today, both teams, and so excited to see that. Volleyball kicked off this past Monday. They'll open up with the tournament at Tyler ISD here next week. Cross country is going to be under there, and then football gets the freshmen started on Monday, but varsity will start on this coming Monday, and so a lot of exciting times. As you can see, you're going to start getting that athletic schedule that comes, and that started this past week, so that'll continue to grow. Another deal, we'll have the UIL snapshot coming up in October, and then district realignment coming up at the beginning of February. So very exciting time. We've got a lot of new faces as far as in the leadership positions. I'm excited about what we have, and I think we're going to have a really good year this year, and very excited about the leadership that we have. And that's kind of our update. Kind of any questions you guys have, I'd be happy to answer.
Questions, comments?
October snapshot on UIL. I was at Legacy this morning for new teacher. All of our 0 years to 3 years teacher coming into the district. Had breakfast and training there this morning. Ran into Mr. Sherman there. Said right now they've got 2,700 kids enrolled at Legacy. So, when you start talking about numbers, I don't know what Tyler High looks like. They'll probably be up a little bit as well. But I think Dr. Gropel said this time compared to last year, district-wide enrollment is actually up to 191 students, or almost 200. So there's a trend there. Hey, Coach Priest, Sarah and Zion, what year are they? Rising?
She'll be a senior.
Both of them be senior?
Which one? What was that?
Zion.
She will be a junior.
Wow, okay. So we've got another year then, that's great. And just personally, just kind of watching how things have gone here the last almost decade, very proud of Legacy softball. For one, Coach Niffen sticking with us, inheriting the condition of the facilities that we had there at Legacy for our softball kids, and him believing in the community that they were going to get a facility built like we have is just incredible, and they're taking full advantage of it. So we're really proud of the Legacy softball team, because my oldest daughter was a softball player in high school. I would have been pretty upset at the condition of our softball facilities if I'd have moved here. So, and we've been doing that for 25 years. So pretty cool. And then Tyler High swimming, just being able, I remember the conversations at the dais here when we built the pool, and we didn't have hardly any, I don't think we had any swimmers at Tyler High. And so seeing that starting to gain some momentum is great as their playoffs or their postseason opportunities are increasing. And then Tyler High baseball, they swept somebody.
Pine Tree.
They swept Pine Tree.
One of them happened to be off of a forfeit.
But still, got to play.
First one did.
Got to play.
They played them a close game. It wound up being a forfeit. But the second time they did come back around and they did beat them.
Yeah.
And then being able to beat Texas High. That was a playoff team. So
yeah, and both of those schools back in the day were both 4A renowned, pretty good baseball schools. Now we're talking 5A now, and they still play pretty competitive baseball. So sneaking away with those 3 wins in district play. You're right, Coach is doing a good job over there, and the kids are doing great. If there's a plea that we could give with all of our youth sports citywide is for daddies to get involved with their kids at younger age so that we can have skills developed prior to them getting to high school, and prior to them to get to middle school as well. So the resurgence in youth league sports is good for everybody, gives the kids something to do. And certainly those working with our kiddos and teaching them about being a part of a team is something that's exceptional. So glad to see 65 kids playing baseball, youth league baseball in North Tyler.
Well, and then one thing that I didn't add was softball. Coach Niffen, who really kind of created his own middle school league during the summer. And then Coach Jenkins has kind of piggybacked on that, and he had a team, and so I was talking to him, and he's very excited about so they played pretty much all summer, and you have a lot more kids participating on the girls' side as well, And he thinks that they have several girls that are going to be able to step in and be able to help them and get more competitive. So
How are we doing with our high school coaches interacting with the middle school coaches so that we have students that come from middle school into high school and they already feel acclimated to the coaching staff?
yes, sir. So, I think, obviously we've got a lot of new faces, two new football staffs, and I think in this past springs, from the last time we met in February, that new staff came in. Both of them have done a really good job of making sure that they're being down there, and if you keep up on social media, so we made a specific point to make sure that we were promoting every time we were there, and so from being basketball to football to volleyball to all those sports, making sure that they were down there and promoting that out. So it's happening. We have improved that part of it. As we met as a staff this past Monday, and that was a strong emphasis, was making sure that because there's very few people, especially at the 5A, 6A level, from your rock walls. We've got Kyle Smith, our new basketball coach that came in from Warren, and they don't have those opportunities that we've been blessed with, and so one of the things I made sure to stress to our coaches was that very few, our principals are allowing this to happen, and so for us to be able to do it and continue to do it, to take a kid, a teacher out of the classroom and put them and be able to go down to the middle school, that we've got to take advantage of that, because we can lose that at any minute. And so really stressing that we've been blessed with that. We've been given that opportunity, and we have to take advantage and don't let this thing get taken away from us.
Yeah, Mr. Newsom, I'll answer a little bit of that because I've got a middle school student that participated in track during the spring and then summer activities as well. And then I've also got some acquaintances, kiddos that I coach in the summer myself that attend the Tyler High Zone. And I've checked on both of those as well. Those high school coaches going to those middle school track meets, that means a lot. And I don't think we've had a lot of that lately. So that proves a keen interest, I think, in those students that are coming. Now, there's some great athletes coming to Tyler High. I'd be recruiting that feeder pattern too. That Bolter young man's going to be an exceptional player. But in the summertime, to where they're opening up these facilities, and there's 4 days a week of skill training, and they're commingling when appropriate. Again, not everybody gets to do it. Your rising middle school kids in with your varsity kids, that shows a lot of interest, I think, as far as that goes. So just little anecdotal stuff there that you're noticing. Now, we'll see with the numbers. The numbers don't lie. You got to measure it to see if there's any over time, but right now they're doing the right thing to get down there to interact.
Yeah,
Well,
and
and
I think
it's-
it'll make a big difference. You were talking about the parents being involved with their kids at the lower level, and if they get involved and they get to know the coaches, then that relationship develops. So going into high school, they already know the coaches and they'll have a relationship and they'll feel comfortable about encouraging their kids even more so.
And I think on the reason why on the social media, we always talk about trust and verify, but it's, making sure that, I want to see a picture every day. And so not just the same picture that we took the day before. So there's always a new picture and always different, just to show that they're getting down there and showing the community that they are getting down. And so, like I said, I think that we're going in the right direction. We still, I will tell you, we still have a long way to go. We're nowhere near where we want to be, because we want to compete at a high level at every single sport that we're in. But I think we got a lot of people in place that can help us do that.
Hey, Coach, the one question I got was just about the baseball tournament. And I know last year we had some coaching turnover and stuff, and was just wondering if you guys have talked about that.
You're talking about the Rose City Classic? Hopefully that is going to, the coaching change got us the year before. The coaching change may get us again, but hopefully we'll be able to, get some teams in there. There's so many tournaments out there that it's hard. You've got to get like we've had Waxahachie in the past. Well, now Waxahachie doesn't let their, they have a new AD and they're not letting them come and stay overnight. And so, there's just a lot of things like that. And then Forney started their own tournament and they jumped on top of ours. And so hopefully we will get it. That's our goal. As of right now, it is scheduled. But because we want to get it. Just hopefully we're able to hold on to it and get enough teams coming in that where we can have it.
Well, and another thing, and we've talked about this with basketball, with like the Wagstaff here. Does it make a lot of sense for the Legacy and Tyler High teams to stay here to play Class B teams that aren't the better teams? So I think we can all enjoy putting the tournament on, but if we're not getting quality teams to come in and just saying we're going to ask Joaquin to come play in it, that's not something we should pat ourselves on the back about. No offense to Joaquin, but Legacy and Tyler High, the size schools that we have, deserve to have a competitive weekend. So there's a lot that goes into that other than just saying we've hosted XYZ tournament for many years. If you're bringing in Amarillo, they've come down here. They did a little spring break trip to come play in the Rose City Classic. You're playing Waxahachie. Lindell's played in it before. I think White House has played in it. So those are quality teams. If you can figure out a way to get those in, then that's a different deal. And we are looking at some basketball opportunities with the amount of gyms that our community has provided us to supporting the Wagstaff Classic as well. And I know that's not on here, but we've heard the baseball parents say they want to host the Rose City Classic. You've got one sitting in front of you right there that had to go 2 years without it, right? Or
Just
1 year?
one.
Just one. So hopefully we can get it back.
Anything else? Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have competitive academics, Dr. Walls.
One thing Tyler ISD has prided itself in is being able to compete inside of the UIL along with other organizations like TSA. And Dr. Walls, our Executive Director of College and Career, is here to provide a report to the board about last year's competitive academic program.
Board Trustees and Dr. Crawford, my pleasure to talk a little bit about the competitive academics. Good to see you again. I think it was 2 weeks ago. So let's start off with middle school. The UIL Academics was held at Tyler Legacy High School. And we had in first place Moore Middle School. It was MST, but they've kind of rebranded the name. Second place, Three Lakes, and then we had Hubbard Middle School in third place. There was a UIL elementary tournament. However, they don't have placement scores with that. Then we're going to take a look at high school. So Tyler High School competed, and the first round was in White House. We had a regional qualifier at UT Arlington, and we just had one that headed from there at the 15-5A regional event. For Tyler Legacy, we had a number of individuals that competed. Tyler Legacy was the academic district champions, once again, which they were last year as well, so that is just really great news. Speech and debate, new teacher last year, or this past year, so again, the regional champions, and they did a couple sweeps at the district level as well, so I think it was first, second, and third place that they won. Regional qualifiers, we had 33 in all different events from the Tyler Legacy, and then 3 state qualifiers. So really great job over at Legacy, having that large number, and of course, district champions. CTSOs and career and technical student organizations, they did a really great job this year. We had DECA, or Distributive Education Clubs of America. We had 6 state contestants. Future Business Leaders of America, 4 students. They were from Tyler High that went to the state contest in Galveston. Future Farmers of America, we did not have that this year, so we had FFA, and they competed in the equine state champion, or moving on to the state contest. Health Occupation Students of America, we had 4 that went on to state. And Skills USA, 17, so pretty large numbers going with that. Skills USA encompasses a large number of different types of events and programs that we have. And then the Technology Students of America, also known as TSA, we had 20. And if you take a look at the picture there, those were our state placement that earned first or second place in state. We did really well again because this year we had a number of national contest participants. So DECA participated in the international contest in Orlando. We had 2 that attended that one. So we have the picture there of them in Orlando. Health Occupation Students of America, we had 1. And I know that y'all may have remembered in May we recognized a number of these participants for heading on to nationals. And the Technology Students of America, so we had a return of Nick Gaffney and Cody Quinn, who were the national champions cybersecurity. Unfortunately, they don't have cybersecurity anymore as a competitive event. However, I don't know what that was for, but they did go back to the nationals, and I believe they placed 9th, so. So the calendar, just looking ahead, and a lot of times, I'll just bring this all up here. In the fall, the biggest thing that they do is really look at recruitment and training and participating. So getting the individuals involved in looking at that. Hopefully I see a little bit more on the end of Tyler High's participation as well as early college high school. So that's 2 areas that I'm definitely going to focus on, of getting more students involved in training and doing some of those competitive events. So January, February, CTSOs, that's when that starts. February through March is where we have most of our district and regional meets for UIL, and then the state contest coming towards the end of that. So that is the completion of my update. Any questions regarding that?
I have a question regarding the middle school, the honor societies, and that's kind of keeping those individuals in tune with preparing going into high school and being competitive and encouraging them to be academic successors, which in middle school, that's a time when they tend to drop behind because of that.
Right.
So honor societies, do we have honor societies on all our campuses now?
I believe so. I believe so because there is the National Junior Honor Society,
Right.
which they've had that. I know that I can even go back to Hogg. We did not have one, and then we brought that forth. So I believe all middle schools, the 4 top middle schools, now we have. Now I'm going to have to double check with Birdwell and Caldwell that they have instituted that. If they haven't, then we're going to look at bringing those chapters ahead.
Dr. Gropel, do you know?
Okay.
Honor societies at all the middle schools. We created bylaws that align, so every middle school is held to the same standard. What we found is the majority of our middle schools didn't have them, but they had different standards. So we spent some time this past fall and spring to align all of that. So all of our middle school students that are in the National Honor Society are all adhering to the same criteria
Great.
district-wide.
Great.
And that does include Birdwell and Caldwell.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
I was trying to get my mic.
He's like tapping.
Dr. Crawford, I remember 5 or 6 years ago when we were setting like college and career goals that we had talked about like really doing right by those really bright kids, like trying to get them active in competitive athletics and all that. And so I was just wondering, is there like, it seems like we're doing way better. And I don't know if there's like any sort of measurement of that, but it just feels like we're doing so much better than we had been doing.
I mean, I think you could probably do year-to-year comparisons. I think we've provided some of that in years past, and so we can get that to you. The legacy winning academic district championships 2 years in a row, that's a pretty significant thing. I think we've won 4 out of 5, maybe. I think we went back-to-back. We may have been 3 in a row. Yeah. So yes, I think we've improved that. We've enhanced it. Certainly the elementary stuff, we do individual winners at our elementary UIL internal
Right.
district meet or that what we call it? So we don't do champions team, there you go. But no doubt, that's every kid likes to compete, or not every kid, but most kids like to compete. And so give them an avenue to do so. They may not be able to do it on a Friday night or a Tuesday night, but being able to do it in some type of venue is something we value because it keeps them engaged inside of school. So to answer your question, I do think that we are competing very well. You've seen some of the data here that I sent Mr. Jones a message here just now, just kind of wondering about early college's participation because they are assigned a UIL district.
They did participate this year. They went to
Okay.
Pittsburgh, but we didn't have any state or regional qualifiers.
Any qualifiers. So I think in future presentations, we need to show where we actually placed. I don't care if we finished 7th or if we finished 2nd, or if kids, if we only had some 5th place kids, it's better, my dad used to tell me 1 for 4 is better than 0 for 4, and he ain't lying. So in saying that, if we had a kid that finished 6th and there were 7 participants, I want to see that marked on here. That gives us some data to kind of look at as well. And then the
Duly
same
noted.
thing at Tyler High. I want to know numbers because we only had one kid advance. So that's just some wonderings that I have about the focus on that and making sure that, because we've got stipends to pay teachers to do so. It's going to be, and if you're getting a stipend, it's your job to go and recruit those kids to compete. And that'll be something that we need to take a look at as numbers from here on out as well.
Happy to provide that for everybody
Yeah.
as we move forward.
You mentioned the early college, and that sparked something that I'd heard and been questioned about. The early college students being able to participate in athletics and band and things of that nature. Some of the parents are saying it's very difficult. You don't have a lot of those kids that may want to do that, but you do have a few. And does our curriculum allow that flexibility that they can do early college and participate in athletics?
It's just really a local decision on that. Like Manor ISD has an entire campus that has a football team and a basketball team and a track team. I can't remember what it's called. Is it New Tech maybe or something like that? Yeah. So we decided that when we created that choice school, you're making a choice to go to early college, to get that college experience. And that's one reason we bat 1,000 when we graduate those kids, is they're not distracted by doing something else. Early on, we did allow some of that to go on. When you start looking at enrollment sizes, early college high school turns in 400 kids as far as enrollment goes. If you start saying that those kids are allowed, or that enrollment's allowed to go to Tyler High to compete, then there's a possibility that they could be bumped up to 6A at Tyler High. So we've kind of kept the things separate, because if you want to be in a comprehensive environment, you go to the comprehensive campus. If you want to go to the early college choice campus, you do that, and there's certain things that are offered there that are not offered over there. Some school districts do, instead of having a standalone early college campus, they do early college campuses on those high school campuses as part of the program that they have, and then you actually can compete. So I don't know how we would do that and still try to keep the stream separated on what we're offering. I know there's some that want to do it.
Yeah.
But they can get, if there's a tennis kid that wants to go practice with one of our schools, they can go compete as an early college high school participant, Greg, am I right? At a district meet, yeah.
Now, we haven't offered, I guess we haven't checked if they would compete, but you're right on that one part with the two high school, with us having the two high schools. Because the majority of the kids at early college are Tyler High, or zone.
75 to 80% of them are assigned there.
So by doing that, when you had two high schools and you had the early college, it allowed us to not be able to count that as long as they did not come back. And so that did help us keep Tyler High down at 5A.
Yeah.
So, but
So-
Olympic sports, so if you got a golf kid or a tennis kid, a cross-country kid, yeah, they could probably go work out with Legacy or Tyler High. But as far as competing, they would be assigned to that 4A district, which is Pittsburgh and that part of East Texas over there. So, I mean, I'm not going to allow, we don't need to allow someone to attend early college high school and then go to a comprehensive high school to play football or basketball per se.
Okay. So it's a choice they need to make going into the early college
Sir,
curriculum.
And that is,
And that's.
that is told to them up front. Now, they're going to shake their head, they're going to sign that piece of paper, and then they're going to come talk to a board member and say,
Yeah.
man, I want my kid to be able to play football on Friday nights at Tyler High. Well, did they tell you about it? No. Yes, we did.
Okay.
The programming is very specific. We want those kids, they're choosing to go to get their college degree by going there, and we're not offering team sports there. That's just it's a facility issue. It's a faculty issue as well. It's a budgetary issue that we want that to be what they're about. And mostly, I think probably 99% of them appreciate that.
Right.
But every now and then you'll get one or two that want to have
Oh, yeah, of
the
course.
best of both worlds.
Always.
And we've got two good comprehensive high schools.
Right.
They get a lot of dual credit hours there. They can get anywhere from 30 to 45 dual credit hours going to either one of our high
Absolutely, and
schools.
that's one of the things too,
Yeah.
is when they are making those decisions, they do want to participate in all those extracurricular activities. We do have the dual credit, we have the AP at both campuses, so there's lots of opportunities to receive that college-type education.
So one of
Thank
our
you.
taglines this year is small town feel, big city opportunities. There's a lot of choice in our district
Right.
to meet those needs. So if they want to make their way towards an associate's degree, they can go to one of our high schools, get 30 to 45 dual credit hours, and still play football on Friday night. Can't get to all 60 because we're not offering those dual credit hours their freshman and sophomore
Right.
year. Yeah.
And we start telling them about it in sixth grade, that if they make the choice to go to early college, that it's a choice.
Yeah.
And so,
I appreciate the answer.
Good.
thank you so very much.
Thank you.
It's budget time, budget update.
Ms. Tasha Bjork, Deputy Superintendent CFO, will provide us an update on the budget as part of our budgetary timeline that we go through every year.
Right.
Ms. Bjork?
Believe the last time I presented was in June, and really, not much has changed as far as our total budget, but the distribution of funds between state and local has changed because of the special session. They implemented the $100,000 exemption. I'm sure you've heard about that. It'll be voted on in November. And they moved the maximum compressed tax rate down 10.7 cents. So we have tax rate compression plus a larger exemption. So the distribution shifted. Our state revenue is now 51.6 and local property taxes 45. So I think it was like 30 last time. The state was like 30-something percent. So it really changed, and you'll see it in the numbers here. So on our state funding, this was presented last time, the increase in our ADA from prior year budget, the increase in the golden penny yield, and then our local share decreased because when your taxes decrease, which ours are significantly, then your local share decreases, and that gave us another $16 million in state funding. And then they put in the school safety allotment increase, that's $380,000. So,
It's a big increase,
yeah, huge.
like 20 cents a kid.
But that's pretty much all that this budget went up from when I presented to you. Or it went up 600,000, but it's mainly that. So state revenue, about $22 million increase. Now local property taxes, the values went up 6.2%, even with our exemption increase. And we have to calculate our funding on that $100,000 exemption because we're just assuming it will be passed in November, and the state told us to calculate it on that. So our M&O tax rate is going to decrease from 87.93 cents to 69.53 cents, which is quite a bit. And I'll go over that later when I combine the debt service rate. So taxes down $15 million. And then just minimal, like interest income and federal income are the main increases on this 3.4 million. So our revenue is going to increase almost $10 million. As far as the use of funds, we've been over this, the raises for the teachers, the administrators, 3%, manual trades and clerical at 5%. We increased our stipends and that type of thing. Payroll of the almost 10 million, payroll was 8.5 million of it. And then we increased some other various department budgets you can see listed there. And then one of the other large increases were our technology contracts because of our one-to-one devices. And that's on this page, 1.5 million. So we have a balanced budget, 9.87 million. Now, if you'll go in your agenda, Joseph, if you'll go to page 18. Right there. Okay, this is our tax levy. And so the top portion shows the net taxable value, and then it shows our projected rate, or our rate for next year, M&O, 0.6953. On INS, you can only levy what your debt service is. And so they're making us whole. The state is on the $100,000 exemption. And so our tax rate has to go down here also. So it's going to be 26.47. Our tax rate's going to be 96 cents even. I made it even. And the last time we had one that low, it was exactly 96 cents in 1991, just as a point of reference. So a decrease in our tax rate of almost 22 cents. An average home value, it's a decrease of around $618, and the average home value is around 200 and something thousand. So anyway, but that's just a quick summary. The main change was on state funding and property taxes. Any questions?
Just a statement as they think of their questions. So we went up 3 pennies in 2017 to build the high schools. We were under that increase and then a penny less about 3 years later. Mm-hmm. And then we passed the bond last year for the Hubbard Early College project. And we're able to decrease, we told,
and we went down.
Yeah, we told the community we were gonna actually decrease it, we're gonna be under that. And then we were on the tax rate. And we actually went 3 more cents below that. Mm-hmm. So.
Last year we went down 3.5 cents, which we were not, I mean, that was just from our values going up. And then now with the tax rate.
Compression.
With the exemption. They're making us whole, so our state funding we'll get extra state funding for our debt also.
On INS.
And so that tax rate had to go down a little bit.
Yeah.
So now
The only reason I bring it up is, there's probably going to be a day of reckoning on all of this. There was in 2006, there was in 2011. And so we're going to enjoy this, and thank goodness the Texas economy is allowing us to have this cushion where the state can make up for the local stuff. And they've done some other things. Again, if your appraisals go up, you can only see a certain percentage of that appraisal go up on your value as taxable for a school system. That's not the case for, I don't think, other entities,
No.
but it is for the school system because we make up the majority of that. There's a lot of push out there about eliminating the M&O tax for perpetuity reasons. So I just want to caution everyone, we can enjoy this tax rate being what it is. We haven't done very much other than handle our finances correctly over the span of 20 plus years in regard to bond elections. You've done a great job of that, Tasha. The board's done a good job of that. Been very creative on refinancing and paying off debt early. So this is certainly, give credit where credit is due, the legislature being able to do this, but there is some concern. Long-term concern. And again, if you've been in this long enough, you know that the mid-2000s, there was this thing done to the tax rate. Remember when it went from $1.50 to $1.04?
Yes,
And then we had the shortfall
but
come
we
20
weren't
2011.
at that.
No, we
at the
weren't.
dollar. We were at 90-something cents.
No, I'm just talking about the max that you could
Yeah.
have in the state at one time was $1.50, and then you went down to $1.04 on the M&O side. So I just want to make sure that somebody who's probably got 10 more years left in this thing, may not all be in Tyler, but I've got 10 more years left. It concerns me that we're playing these games when the economy is so hot right now, even though inflation's kicking our tail. It's been working, and we need to be mindful of that as we go forward in regard to that. Now, the other thing we can also say in Tyler, a great place to live, because the growth that we've had here, both in industry and in rooftops, has provided some of this as well. And the market valuation of our properties here, while we may not like it when we open our tax bills, it's better than going the other direction. Because that does provide for quality schools, it provides for quality healthcare, it provides for quality police services and city services as well. So just wanted to kind of give a little bit of a commentary in regard to that, to buyer beware on these tax rates being as low as they're going.
Yeah.
30 years. It hadn't been this low in 30 years.
Right.
So anyways.
Question. Is this where I asked about the class size?
It's a couple items.
Okay,
I've got
keep going.
a
I just
few
want to
more.
make sure.
We have an item on state comp ed budget.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Excuse me, Tasha?
I was telling him, there's an item specifically on the state comp ed budget that we'll be getting to. Like the next few items are mine too.
Okay, all right.
Anything else on the budget? Okay.
Sounds good.
So the next item is on the purchase of attendance credits. Now, this is the old chapter 41. What?
Go ahead.
We're going to let her introduce it.
Oh,
The
go
next
ahead.
item for consideration and approval is an agreement for the purchase of attendance credit and to delegate contractual authority to the superintendent.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay,
Mr. York.
this is the old chapter 41 recapture. I think they call it chapter 49,
Nine.
8 or
Chapter
something.
48 or 49 now. It's the old Robin Hood scheme to
Right.
where you had property wealthy districts
Right.
that had to provide some type of compensatory stuff back to the state so that we could balance out and level out for the property poor districts. That's the old concept of Robin Hood. Now it's a different chapter in the code, but it still exists. Even though they try to say it doesn't exist anymore, it still exists. Grapevine Colleyville ISD can tell us because they wrote a check for how much? $60 million back to the state. So Tasha's introducing that because we've received a letter from the state identifying us as,
Well, our values continue to rise, and this was before the exemption too. So I don't know how it'll affect us, but they say we still have to get this approval in case it affects us. So, and what they do is, we've had this happen to us several times, but we've never really had to pay more than 5 or 6,000 back. They're just going to net it out of what they owe us, basically. Whereas Grapevine Colleyville doesn't even get state funding, they have to pay all of it. So this is just, and this gives the superintendent the authority to go in and approve this. So that's pretty much all it is. And we won't know until next spring if we have any come out, and it won't be much.
So I'm going to say this to the board now, that if you provide this and there is some sticker shock, we will bring it back here
Right.
to discuss more, because I'm not going to hit the button that says that we owe $3 million back to the state before we talk about this in open. But if it's,
Oh, right.
if
I
it's
would-
traditionally what we've seen here is something that's nominal, then this will give the authority to go ahead and let Tasha execute her job, and I'll hit a button or something like that.
And well, you have to do this before September 1st, this.
To choose the strategy.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But I would have to do a budget amendment
Yeah.
if it were going to significantly affect us. And so it will come to you.
I move we approve the agreement.
Second.
There you
All right, thank you. Next, we're looking at, sorry. All in favor?
go. Aye.
All opposed?
The ayes have it.
The ayes have it.
There you go.
B, consider approval of board meeting date for purpose of adopting budget and proposed tax rate.
This is just a requirement that we have to get the board to approve the date of the meeting, which is August 21st, and the proposed tax rate that will be in the paper tomorrow, which is the 96 cents.
I move we approve item B. We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, it's moved. Ayes have it. We are ready for the next one. Consider approval of proposed budget and expenditures for state compensatory funds. This is where you had a question, Mr.
Yes, we're required to have this be adopted separately. It's in the general fund budget that I just went over, but this has to be adopted separately. And what state comp ed is based pretty much on educationally disadvantaged students, meaning they get our census block information, and low income is weighted much heavier than higher income. And so we have really low income for our district. And so we get around, this past year, we got 21.5 million. Well, 55% of that is the 11.8 million that Lance went over in the first slide. So the rest of between the 11.8 and the 21.5, that just folds into our general fund budget to just spend on indirect type things. And so this goes over like what we can do with state comp ed and who it affects. And I went over what we spent for it this year, and we pretty much keep it pretty consistent. And then I have on the next page the programs for next year. And we always use it for RISE, JJEP, the DAEP, AVID, pre-K, summer school programs, and then just other STEM programs. And then the supplemental staff are listed below. And we have intervention specialists, positive behavior specialists, and it has the staff at RISE, DAEP, homebound teacher, college and career counselor, our master teachers. We have 11 teachers for pre-K and 19 aides for pre-K. It covers our student service officers. We have a board certified behavior analyst. And then we have teaching staff for SSI and targeted instruction. And then we have a lot of aides that are just in regular classrooms to support that. Overflow aides. And then the larger campuses have aides that we allot that they can put in the classrooms wherever they so choose. And so any instructional aides come out of this money also.
Is the one college career counselor the one based at CTC? Okay.
Any questions or comments?
I think you answered my question, I think. I was asking about the aides and the class size, how that related. Is any class that have 22 or above students get an aide?
And yes, but also the campuses have, if they're 500 or more, they get some instructional aides also that can go in the classroom, or they can use them in PE, or however they so choose. So there's other aides too that we give them, and they use them a lot in kindergarten.
Right. And that's my emphasis, you know,
Yeah.
the class size, if we don't increase the class size, I was thinking about adding aides, and I brought that up several times in regards to that, and I was just wondering where the funding would be for that if we needed to do that, because I do think that it's overwhelming for those teachers, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, in regards to trying to deal with the students and behaviors and everything else, and then trying to get 22 students to instruct them and maintain their attention and get them on task when they're not used to it. So, and I was thinking that the class size makes a difference. If not, at least having an aide that could maybe make a difference and help the teacher out. So that's why I asked about that and the funding and the amount of funding that we're putting into it, because I think it will definitely make a big difference academically in our kids being successful early on in their academic career, so that by the time they get to that third, fourth grade level, that they feel pretty confident, and we feel confident in their ability to be on task. And I think that's why I keep bringing that up. And
Well, I
keep
think we're
emphasizing
doing
it.
a study on it.
Right. We'll talk about that maybe on next time.
So, just in response to that, I think anytime you create a budget, everybody's got to figure out a way to juggle a lot of different things at one time. And we're on a pretty fixed, I said this last time, we're on a pretty fixed income in regard to how we do things. We can't just go raise taxes by 10 cents on our tax rate like they used to back in the
And
old
3
days.
cents of our money's tied up in preventive.
And preventative maintenance,
Most
which we want to take
districts
care,
don't.
yeah, we want to take care of our facilities. That way we don't have to call
Right.
bond elections for
Right.
renovation, the new roof or air conditioning or buying buses. So I think every community's local, and as boards and administrations put budgets together, you know what pots of money that you have. And so to make a paradigm shift to say that pre-K through 2 is going to get teachers' aides inside of their classrooms, then what are you going to have to give up to be able to accomplish that? Are you not going to pay your teachers as well as we try to pay them? Or are we not going to have some of these other things funded through state comp ed, if you're going to use it for state comp ed money or your general budget money? So I think in theory, absolutely, you would want to say that, is there some way we could do that in these certain blocks of grade levels? But something else is going to have to give whenever you start considering what funds are going to be available to do that. So again, we go back to John Hattie and the effect size of what's going on. It bodes well from grades K through 12. A quality teacher in front of kids is what makes the most impact. Class sizes, while on the list, is further down. So we hear it, and we'll do what we can where we can, and we're going to study it. And certainly, I just want to caution everybody that if we're going to fund that initiative, then it's got to come from somewhere else, because we haven't hit an oil patch.
In a lot
here in
of
Tyler.
the schools, the J-Pro especially, they use their Title I. I can think of one that has bought 4 instructional aides, because they know where they need them, which rooms, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And they buy the lower income schools, they buy instructional aides a lot.
Yeah,
through
and we
their
have
Title I.
flexibility to do that through their Title
Right.
I stuff. So
And so
that's right.
There's more than you would think.
And there's another thing that we do that doesn't really get put in the budget, is when we get to first, second, third, fourth week of school, and we see that there's gaps at maybe a J-Pro campus or a high-need campus as far as class sizes go. In other words, we could consolidate those two classes and take that teacher and send them to another part of town that might have an overage. We don't do that. We'll leave 3 classes at
Only if it's,
12 kids per class.
or 11 and 11,
Yeah.
It's just-
I don't know how many teachers, we might have done that one year where we actually collapsed a class and then sent that teacher to another school. We don't do that very much because
Not
again, the class
recently.
sizes we think are valuable in some of the pockets to where we have, a high concentration of economically disadvantaged students or maybe at-risk students. And then here's the other thing. Tyler is so diverse that you've got rural poor, you've got urban poor, you've got urban wealth, you've got suburban poor, there's a lot of differentiation inside of our poverty to where we've got poor kids and moderate to high concentration of kids that are in need at all of our campuses. So it's the perception of that only, one pocket of schools doesn't have a high need of that. That's a little different. And you can think, if you drive around and look at where all of our Section 8 housing is in Tyler, you're going to have concentrations of kids all over our city to be able to accomplish that. We've identified maybe a pocket of 4 or 5 campuses in J-Pro to say that's where our risk loads are the heaviest, and we try to do what we can.
Well, I understand the restraints within the district. I think that if there is a need, knowing Tyler and how in tune they are with needs within the community, I think that there could be funding obtained that could actually assist with that if we needed to do that.
Yeah.
So I never sell Tyler short for being very supportive of things within their city. So if there's a need and we need to do that, I think that we can actually get assistance from the community to help if we think it's going to make a difference in academic achievement in our kids. Sure. And I firmly believe that. So whatever we can come up with in that regards, I think there's an opportunity to be able to find funding to provide some support for that in that nature. So, okay.
And that's been the conversation in education since I've been in education about class size. And they always find that it doesn't make a difference. It's the teacher that's in there. So if you can't discipline, if you can't do what needs to be done, an aid's not going to help you because you're not going to even be able to tell the aide what to do. So I like the idea of researching it and making sure, because the teacher makes the difference. It can be, I've had 13 and I've had 45, and they still succeeded. So it just depends on the educator. So we're doing training, and we're doing what they need to do to become successful, and I think that'll help 100%.
45 kids?
Yes.
Why did you retire? Want to come back?
And it was 7th grade.
You want to come back?
Moving next item on the agenda.
I like to say, in regards to that, I agree with you 100%. I think it has to do with the teacher, and I think that we are doing some creative things to get our teachers back into the classroom, the good teachers in the classroom, and we need to do that. We need to keep them there. And I think that will make a difference. They can handle those kids, the 22 kids that have problems, just from Larry. But then we have some that are relatively new teachers that's at that level that can't do it. So
we'll
we need to take
concentrate on
those
helping
things
them.
in consideration.
Great teachers. so we can
Right.
keep-
Saw
Thank
a
you.
bunch of those new teachers today. I'm excited about our new teachers that we've got coming on board.
A motion to approve the
Motion to
budget.
approve proposed budget and expenditures for state comp funds.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ayes have it. Is that the last one? No. Consider approval of student code of conduct for the 23-24 school year.
Yeah, on page 28 of your agenda, that has the actual agenda item attached to this request. This is a second reading of the student code of conduct. Y'all actually had the first reading at the last regular meeting of July. We went over that. John Johnson presented that document to y'all. Y'all should have received that in your board packet with any and all changes. The most significant change being the spring semester behavior and whatever rewards might be attached to that, including not being able to walk across the stage at graduation or go to maybe field day at a campus or maybe some type of end-of-year event that is school-sponsored, that might be off campus, that not only if you get sent to DAP, you may be also excluded from being able to attend those as part of your discipline. So making sure that's in the student code of conduct so that we can back our principals when they provide this discipline and actually present that to the parents at the same time is something that's important to us. So that's kind of the update on the student code of conduct.
Motion to approve the student code of conduct.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
One opposed?
There you go.
The ayes have it, it's been approved.
Good deal.
We are now going into executive session. We shall return.